In a world overrun by dragons, humans rely on dragon hunters for protection. These hunters take on quests to kill dragons, using two methods: freezing the dragon's heart with a silver sword or burning it to ashes with sunlight. Ragna, the smelliest loser nerd in his village, was considered the worst of the lot and failed to become a dragon hunter like his peers. But one day, something miraculous happened. He awakened his future self, unlocking a unique and powerful ability. This newfound power propelled Ragna to become the strongest dragon hunter, even capable of slaying the dragon god in a quest for revenge. The story begins with Ragna on a quest to slay dragons with his pink-haired friend, Leo. During the quest, Ragna has a vision of himself in the future, slaying a dragon without any weapons. He sees that despite his immense strength, his future self is still hungry for more power. Before he can understand more, a dragon attacks him. Leo jumps in, showcasing her dragon-slaying skills, and saves Ragna. They extract the dragon's heart and wait for morning to let the dragon's body burn in the sunlight. Back in their hometown of Ronabar, in the kingdom of Les, Ragna turns in the dragon heart and receives a significant reward. He and Leo spend their money on a meal at a nearby diner. Despite being older than the 12-year-old Leo, Ragna documents her life as she approaches adulthood. Their celebration is interrupted by Sykes, the second strongest dragon hunter in Les, who insults Ragna out of jealousy for his friendship with Leo. Annoyed, Leo defends Ragna, brandishing her silver sword at Sykes and challenging anyone to join her in a journey to kill endless dragons. Only Ragna swears to accompany her till his last breath. Later that night, Ragna practices his swordsmanship. He hears a whisper from an old man, causing another vision where he sees himself losing everything he cares about, including Leo. The next day, with no quests available, the guild plans to head east to the town of Don Iru. Overjoyed, Leo starts planning adventures but worries when she sees Ragna's troubled expression. He confides in her about his vision, and Leo reassures him of his hidden potential. The next day, chaos erupts as Don Iru is destroyed by a horde of dragons. As Leo and Ragna rush to the town, they find it engulfed in flames, mirroring Ragna's vision. Leo charges ahead to stop the dragons, and Ragna, determined to protect her, fights a superior dragon with a human-like form. With Sykes' help, Ragna tries to attack the dragon but is thrown into a river. As he sinks, Ragna has a vision of his future self, who reveals that he will gain immense power but lose everything, including Leo. To change this fate, his future self grants him immense strength. Meanwhile, Leo confronts the superior dragon, Grimwall, who reveals that the superior dragon served the dragon god, angered by the closing of his favorite bakery. As Grimwall prepares to kill Leo, Ragna reappears, his new powers radiating energy. He easily defeats Grimwall with a single blow, altering the future. The next day, Ragna wakes up with Leo and Sykes by his side. Sykes demands an explanation for Ragna's newfound power, but Ragna, exhausted, falls asleep. An earthquake interrupts the scene, caused by a dragon immune to sunlight pulling the forest toward the town. Leo fights the dragon's tentacles, and Ragna, sensing her danger, awakens and unleashes a powerful blast wave of silverine, freezing half the tentacles. Locked in battle, Ragna rushes towards the dragon, instantly slicing its face. After dealing with the superior dragon, he resolves to kill all dragons to protect Leo. He encounters Crimson, a waitress who he recognizes as the dragon monarch from his vision. When he calls her out, she denies it and slaps him for his wild assumptions. Leo interrupts and they head back, but the dragon returns for a second attack. Ragna helps Leo evade and uses a powerful attack to obliterate the dragon. Ragna tells Leo to leave with the townspeople, as Ronabar is now a battlefield. She refuses, but he puts her to sleep to protect her. Leo wakes up being carried away from Ronabar by Sykes, along with other residents. Ragna convinces Crimson to join him in fighting dragons by offering to be her servant. During his unconsciousness, he has a vision of meeting Crimson 20 years into the future. Waking up, Ragna explains his vision to Crimson. They spot a group of dragons attacking the townspeople and rush to fight them. Ragna uses his silverine art to freeze a dragon, revealing his true powers. Crimson admits she is a dragon monarch, transforms into her true form, and finishes off the remaining dragons. Crimson offers Ragna a poison, saying she will work with him only if he drinks it. The poison will only work if he harbors malice towards her. Without hesitation, Ragnar drinks it, surprising Crimson. When asked why he wants to kill all dragons, Ragnar reveals that he wants to protect what his future self could not. For that reason, he wanted to form an alliance with her. Meanwhile, a group of people are seen fleeing from a dragon who turned out to be the third-seat superior dragon, Deez's Tro. Deez's had embodied the wind and had the ability to create rapid tornadoes. Using this unique ability, Deez's trapped a group of women inside his tornado and sliced off their bodies piece by piece using the wind as his blade. Fortunately, some of the residents of the nearby town escaped Deez's grasp and fled. As they made a run for it, they were interrupted by the sudden appearance of regular dragons. The townspeople tried their best to fight them off, but the dragons were stronger than the humans. Before things got worse, Ragnar and Crimson arrived to rescue them. Ragnar effortlessly defeated the smaller dragons, and both of them spoke to the townspeople, ensuring their safety. Upon meeting the townspeople, Crimson concocted a story, claiming that Ragnar was the great dragon reaper and that Crimson himself was a mage capable of using unique magic only wielded by some dragons and a handful of humans. To impress them further, Crimson revealed the magical slime he used, which appeared in human form and could speak. The townspeople were fascinated, seeing magic for the first time with their own eyes. The leader of the townspeople, Michael, approached Ragnar and Crimson, asking for their help against the third seat, Deez's Troys, who had arrived in the land of Torr. Upon hearing about Deez's Troys, Ragnar prepared to leave to confront him. However, he suddenly collapsed due to muscle fatigue. Seeing Ragnar unable to move, Crimson initially hesitated to help. But when he saw the townspeople willing to give up their weapons to slay the dragon, Crimson decided to lend a hand. After some time, Crimson handed a silver sword to Michael and prepared the townspeople for battle. As they gathered at Torr, Crimson used a key to unlock a room filled with modern-day weapons, much to the surprise of the townsfolk. Crimson explained how bullets laced with Ragnar's silverine would be effective against dragons. Later that day, Ragnar revealed her curse by shooting herself in the head, only to resurrect moments later, using her carcass as a reward for her slime, which had provided intel on Deez's Troy's location. In the following days, the townspeople practiced with their newly acquired weapons at a gun range. At dawn, they assembled and made their way to confront Deez's Troy's in On. As they approached, Crimson announced their arrival through a megaphone, taunting Deez's Troy's. The third-seat dragon engaged in a verbal sparring match, defending his position and taunting the dragon hunters even as they attacked him with silverine-laced bullets and Ragnar's battle arts. Deez's Troy's was eventually knocked out of his tornado by Ragnar's attacks. In disbelief at being defeated, he was finished off by the townspeople using a silverine sword and bullets, aided by the sunlight. After defeating Deez's Troy's, the townspeople were grateful and sent on their way with resources. Ragnar reflected on Crimson's strategy to lure Deez's Troy's into the sunlight, realizing Crimson's strength and cunning. Meanwhile, Crimson used a radio to play a broadcast from the Defense Ministry of Lee Kingdom, ordering all citizens to evacuate to the royal capital. 5 days prior to these events, King Theme of Lee Kingdom had been visited by the first-seat monarch dragon, Ultimate Tia. She breached the barrier and froze time to deliver a message from God about the kingdom's fate. Ultimate Tia declared that the kingdom's demise was inevitable and revealed her intent to annihilate mankind there. When King Theme attempted to use the solar safeguard system against her, it failed, and she was protected by the superior dragons Nebule and Boreas. Ultimate Tia resurrected King Theme after his failed attempt, stating that God had ordained the kingdom's end. Subsequently, a large-scale evacuation was announced due to increasing dragon attacks. Despite the king's indifference, the capital's refugee numbers swelled. Meanwhile, Ultimate Tia was concerned about the deaths of Grimwelt, Deez's, Temag, and Doria by unknown assailants, along with Princess Steria's revenge for Doria's death. To pursue vengeance, Ultimate Tia dispatched superior dragons Terra, Alto, and Walti Kamui. Ragnar dreamed of a future where he was captured by the superior dragons, learning that all superior dragons were once human, transformed by Ultimate Tia. Disturbed by this nightmare, Ragnar awakened, disillusioned by Ultimate Tia's supposed kindness towards humans despite her strength. Crimson decided that Ultimate Tia had to die next and headed to the capital city with Ragnar. Upon arrival, Ragnar discovered he suffered from a fear of crowds without Leo, contrary to Crimson's expectations of an overflowing city of 2 million refugees. It appeared the superior dragons had already begun killing humans using an unknown method to avoid drawing attention. Crimson left Ragna with her slime, instructing him not to engage anyone or do anything reckless. Crimson visited Golem, her servant infiltrating Colonel Rowan's army, and Chima, the shapeshifter, to inform them of Ragna's mission to assassinate Ultimate Tia. Meanwhile, Ragna observed the army parading with dragon corpses, seemingly to reassure citizens. Amidst the parade, he spotted Ultimate Tia in the crowd but restrained himself from acting against her as promised. Holding back his anger, Ragna inadvertently drew Ultimate Tia's attention with his flushed face. While Crimson discussed her plans with allies, one of her henchmen expressed doubt about challenging Ultimate Tia due to her time control magic. Crimson reassured them, confident in Ragna's ability to defeat Ultimate Tia. As Ragna struggled with his desire to confront Ultimate Tia, Crimson's henchman analyzed footage of Ultimate Tia's time control powers. Crimson revealed a potential weakness in Ultimate Tia's ability to pause and rewind time simultaneously. Back with Ragna, Slime helped him resist the urge to fight Ultimate Tia and diverted her attention away from him. To Ragna's surprise, Ultimate Tia's companion informed him that she was helping him find his parents. Witnessing this, Ragna remained baffled by a superior dragon aiding a human. Nebule's sudden arrival interrupted the tense moment, casting a malevolent glare at Ragna. One of Crimson's henchmen realized Ultimate Tia's limitation with time control, earning Crimson's approval. She believed Ragna could exploit this weakness in a one-on-one confrontation to defeat Ultimate Tia. Crimson instructed her henchmen to support Ragna by distracting Ultimate Tia's allies, Nebule and Boreas. Meanwhile, enraged by Ultimate Tia's actions, Ragna confronted her and killed Nebule in front of her. With Ultimate Tia left alone, Ragna declared his intent to kill her, and they engaged in a fierce battle. During a parade, Ragna continued to dream about his future, where he saw himself stabbing himself with a silverine sword to avoid becoming a member of the superior dragons. This vision reinforced his determination to eliminate the threat of the dragons. Ultimately, Ultimate Tia used her time manipulation technique to escape Ragna's final attack, resetting time to when Ragna first noticed her in the parade. At that very moment, Ultimate Tia uses her time-stopping ability and tells Ragna how much of a threat he is to her. She questions why he harbors such deep hatred toward her despite their short history. Ultimate Tia is shocked to notice Ragna moving during stop time, but before she can investigate further, Nebule attacks Ragna with a barrage of punches. When Ragna doesn't dodge, Ultimate Tia dismisses it as her imagination and orders Nebule to stop since Ragna's emitted silverine was harming him. She realizes that Ragna's body remains unfazed by Nebule's blows and believes they'll need world-shattering magic to harm him. Remembering King Fem's solar safeguarding attack, she asks an ally to speak with King Fem and reveals her plan to deal with Ragna's allies after defeating him. Suddenly, Ragna awakens and approaches Ultimate Tia as if the time stop had no effect on him. Scared, she doesn't understand how he's moving since only those who share her blood can move in her frozen time. Nebule uses his strongest barrier to protect Ultimate Tia, but Ragna easily breaks it with his head. Just as Ragna is about to end both of them, he collapses from overusing his future powers, bleeding from his eyes and nose. The superior dragons force King Fem to use the solar light beam to dispose of Ragna, but it fails as Crimson and an ally arrive by Ragna's side. On the battlefield, Crimson looks at Ragna with disappointment for disobeying orders. Seeing more allies step in, Boreas pleads with Ultimate Tia to use her time-stopping ability. However, traumatized by Ragna breaking her time freeze rules, she starts panicking. Crimson realizes he must break Ultimate Tia's morale and detonates several bombs across the Lee Kingdom, exposing the kingdom's false sense of security and trying to provoke Ultimate Tia to use her remaining power to rewind time. Nebule warns her against using her energy, so Crimson retreats, meeting with Golem nearby. Crimson scolds Golem for failing to place bombs on the clock tower and orders him to monitor bloodline movements and dispose of someone's body. Nebule feels he has failed Ultimate Tia and remembers a meeting with Boreas about maturation and its relation to their bloodline. Boreas had told him he would one day serve as the progenitor's backbone. Determined to find and destroy Crimson and Ragna for her master's sake, Nebule powers up. Confident in his hidden dimension's security, Crimson laughs at Nebule's challenge. However, Ragna awakens, emitting silverine that cracks Crimson's space. Crimson orders Chima to subdue Ragna, but a crack allows Nebule to detect them. Crimson tries to flee and orders Golem to shoot at Nebule, leading to a skirmish. Elsewhere, Princess Steria learns that people entered through her underground teleportation circle. Crimson and Ragna had escaped but ended up in her stronghold. Her advisor, Isaac, informs her that Ragna is getting medical treatment while Crimson promises to answer questions. Crimson remembers Steria's battle prowess and her ability to sense aura. He believes he can deceive her with aura manipulation, revealing his dragon eye to her. During Crimson's interrogation, Steria recalls a meeting with Lieutenant General Pereiro, whom she killed for plotting a coup. Back in the present, Steria explains her aura sensing abilities to Crimson, revealing she caught his lies through color changes in his aura. Despite Crimson's convincing tale, Steria senses something off and orders her men to draw their swords. Accepting his fate, Crimson is saved by Ragna, who steps in. Steria, infatuated with Ragna, starts losing her composure. She fantasizes about him, remembering her tutor Nazarena and her engagement being called off due to her wordsmith activities. Realizing their goals align, Crimson suggests cooperation. Steria's men lock Crimson and Ragna in a cell where they discuss their course of action. Meanwhile, Steria fantasizes about Ragna, but Nazarena reminds her of her leadership duties. Steria promises to live up to her status and fulfill her responsibilities. Ultimate Tia apologizes to her god, who is her sister, for failing to protect her. Awakened from the nightmare, she realizes her powers aren't as strong as before. Steria holds a meeting about dragon activity and updates on the teleportation circle. Ragna and Crimson arrive at the meeting, and Crimson promises to provide Ragna's skills to help Steria's allies. Despite her infatuation, Steria doesn't trust Crimson and refuses to work with him. After Ragna vouches for Crimson's hatred toward dragons, Steria accepts their help, but she reminds Crimson she will be in charge of planning. Wal Kamui visits Ultimate Tia, who struggles with her weakened time control. To comfort her, Wal Kamui brings the head of the man who killed Desus Troyes, but Ultimate Tia is uncomfortable with the sight. Wal Kamui presents a silverine blade and explains that she lost control due to fear of Ragna. Initially refusing, Ultimate Tia is convinced to use the blade to regain her power and orders Wal Kamui to bring her Ragna and Crimson's heads. Later, Ragna demonstrates silverine principles to Steria, who is distracted by his presence. Steria's men bring their weapons for Ragna to infuse with silverine. Ragna recalls Crimson suggesting keeping half of the silverine for themselves to remain independent. While infusing weapons, two of Steria's subordinates discuss their views on Ragna's abilities. Another subordinate, Shin, repeatedly challenges Ragna but is always defeated. Twin warriors present their guns for infusion, and Slime makes a grave mistake by mocking them, leading to his torture. Another group struggles with the teleportation circle task, and Crimson offers help. Meanwhile, Ulto and other superior dragons discuss their plans. Wal Kamui plans to handle Ragna and his friends, but Nebule intervenes, believing Ragna will come to them. Ulto praises Nebule and tells Wal Kamui to act maturely. Ultimate Tia reluctantly agrees to Ulto's ruthless plan to destroy humans. Steria questions Crimson's truthfulness about defeating superior dragons, and Steria advises paying little mind to his mixed truths and lies. However, I brings up Crimson's claim about superior dragons being humans. Steria confirms Crimson's claim by mentioning several soldiers in her employ who exhibit non-human traits. Ik is perplexed by this revelation, but Steria dismisses its importance in their upcoming fight, emphasizing the need for Ik to give his all and survive. Meanwhile, Crimson and Ragna discuss Ragna's readiness to face Wal Ui. Analyzing himself, Ragna admits he may not be fully prepared for the fight. Crimson is relieved to hear this, considering Wal Ui to be a superior dragon who has surpassed his limitations. A encounters Fu, who informs him that Crimson helped improve their magic circle. Simultaneously, the twins arrive at Ragna's cell with Slime, who appears bruised and battered. Crimson also arrives and learns that Ragna prefers to stay in his cell to remain calm. Ragna reveals he saved most of his silverine power for the upcoming battles. Assigning Ragna a task, Crimson instructs him to swipe one of Steria's swords, infuse it with silverine, and head underground to avoid suspicion. Crimson snaps Slime out of his depressive state and assigns him to monitor Ragna. When Starlay arrives, Crimson covers his intentions by claiming he's planning to take a nap and cause no trouble. Later, when meeting Steria and Ragna, Steria directs Ragna to choose a weapon. She expresses her plan to stay with the Solarians after their upcoming battle and join the Solarian Church to maintain peace. Steria hopes the Solarians will protect her people, asking Ragna to become a dragon scourge and lead in her stead if she dies. Ragna declines her offer, upsetting Steria, who reminds him of his promise to follow her orders. Ragna infuses most of his silverine into each sword and promises to protect Steria. Meanwhile, Alto Zora and several dragons create chaos in the royal palace. Terra attempts infiltration but fails. Ragna emerges from the base with 2 silverine swords to face Terra, who walks coldly toward him. Star's forces wait for Alto Zora's forces, surprised when several humans enter, pleading for protection. I recalls Crimson's warnings about Alto's drug crafting and hypnotic powers, urging vigilance. As the humans attack, Steria assists her comrades, distinguishing between friends and foes, vowing to kill the latter herself. Steria entrusts her with protecting the base and asks Gra, Hela, Chris, and Nazarena to accompany her to the forest. Elsewhere, Alto is thrilled by Star's resolve and looks forward to battling her soon. Crimson reflects on superior dragons' talents, measured by the length of their maturation. During his fight with Ragna, Territor admits lacking talent but compensating with human experience. Ragna finds it challenging to land a decisive blow on Territor and plans to channel all his power into his sword. Gra, Hela, and the aerial unit patrol the forest, relaying their findings. The twins inform Steria of dragons heading near the base's east entrance, anticipating their next move. Steria remains calm, praising her Foss's efforts against Alto's human army. Alto checks on Territor, mildly concerned, as Terra believes he defeated Ragna. Alto questions Territor about Ragna, suspecting him as the Reaper who attacked Ultimate Tia. Territor denies Ragna is the Reaper but senses the Reaper might be present on the battlefield. Attempting to kill Ragna, Territor is interrupted by inferior dragons who believe Ragna is their priority. Territor asks Alto for new orders, intending to visit Steria and annihilate her with a cannon attack. Ragna tries to stop Territor but is overwhelmed. Shin and Garm arrive to help Ragna, but instead of gratitude, Ragna dismisses them and challenges Shin to a duel. In a flashback, Shin opposed Steria's cautious methods before Ragna and Crimson arrived. Steria informed her forces of post-battle plans, deciding to remain with her soldiers. In the present, Shin shares his reasons for fighting with Ragna and approaches Gra for updates. Shin plans to stop Territor. Steria uses her powers to claim the forest as her territory. Her comrades update her on their progress, while Alto acknowledges Steria's strategy involving a magic absorption circle. Steria realizes Alto knows about her plan and instructs her troops to watch for abnormalities. Dragons attack Steria and her squad, and Alto assumes Steria's magic circle's absorption range is 2 kilometers. Alto recalls Nebula's warnings about Crimson's barrier magic and believes winning the war is meaningless if Steria escapes. I faces trouble as his men fall, realizing the dragon controlling time is Ultimate Tia in her dragon form. Crimson intervenes with a flashbang orb that burns Ultimate Tia. He reveals manipulating the orb to explode when sensing stop time. Unhappy with Crimson's methods, I comply as is their only hope. The story picks up as Crimson reveals that Alto is aware of the next phase of their teleport plan and is plotting to deploy his human army around their base to sabotage it. To counter Alto's army, Crimson plans to use his hypnotized forces against them. Elsewhere, Goran, frustrated by his inability to break through one of the base's barriers, confronts Fu, demanding to be taken to the magic circle. Fu refuses and engages Goran in battle. Goran has a flashback of Steria arguing with Fu about the magic circle's requirements. Back in the present, Fu defeats Goran and steals his magic. Amid the chaos, Crimson observes, impressed by Steria's forces. Suddenly, strange events occur, prompting Crimson to urge Fu and his comrades to follow him. Confused, Fu questions Crimson, who instructs him to focus on protecting the barrier. Meanwhile, Steria's forces clash with mature dragons. Alto, intrigued by Steria's unconventional tactics, watches as the dragons bring Steria down. Praising her efforts but noting her inexperience, Alto claims victory. However, Tor informs Alto that Shin, Graham, and Ragna have defeated a third of his army, a development that requires attention. Shin and Graham, though hesitant, notice Ragna sharpening his abilities and becoming more comfortable with his power. Determined to protect everyone, Ragna slays numerous dragons swiftly. One of Steria's troops aids her, and she orders a retreat northwest. Alto learns of Urgoran and Platinum Tiara's defeat, baffling him. He considers Sterius Foss's true capabilities and firepower, then asks Territor about his recovery time. Alto devises a new strategy and relays it to Territor, who plans to blow everything up within 5 minutes. Shin helps Ragna slay a dragon, but Ragna initially rebukes him, recalling Shin's words about not acting like a hero. Apologizing, Ragna allows Shin and Graham to fight the dragons freely and asks them to follow his lead. Following Ragna, they reflect on his influence. Alto, as a counterattack, infects several mature dragons, but Ragna defeats them easily, angering Shin. Despite Shin's frustration, Ragna insists they continue. Oz is enraged by Ragna's efficiency, and Alto is flustered by Steria's human forces, curious about their weapons. Concluding that someone else is leading these humans, Alto wonders if the same people who troubled Ultimatia are present. At the magic teleportation circle, Crimson uses a brainwashed human to suppress Fu and his allies. Crimson then takes over the magic circle, aligning it with their needs but excluding those he deems dead weight. Realizing something's wrong, Fu confronts Crimson, who reassures him. Meanwhile, Alto ponders if Ragna is the Reaper from the capital bombing but hesitates to inform Wallach Kamui, fearing for his safety. As Steria's troops take her northwest, Hela notices Gra devouring dragons. Empowered, Hela and Gra plot revenge. At the magic teleportation circle, Crimson manipulates Fu into activating the circle. Mao intervenes, urging Fu not to obey. Crimson's men shoot Mao, causing panic. As Fu tries to help Mao, Crimson restrains him, threatening to kill the others if the circle isn't activated. Fu agrees, but Mao gains a power boost, shocking Crimson. Mao uses her powers to teleport Crimson and his men away. Exhausted, Mao collapses, and her friends rush to her aid. Crimson and his brainwashed humans fall from the sky, lamenting the lost opportunity. Alto contemplates summoning Wallach Kamui but remains hesitant. He wonders why Ragna and Crimson support Steria, speculating on Crimson's motives. Ultimately, he views it as a race to achieve their goals first, determined to kill Steria before Crimson succeeds. Crimson, lying powerless, hopes Ragna escapes with allies and that Steria perishes. In the battle, Steria's commander encourages the troops. The twins aid the soldiers, and Steria recalls Crimson's warnings about superior dragons. Examining the battleground, Steria deduces Alto's location. Alto increases the insanity levels of his dragon army, expecting them to fulfill their purpose. As Steria and her forces power up to attack Alto, he spreads a deadly toxin. Nazarena appears, beheading Alto but leaving him unfazed. She departs, thinking her job is done. Steria, realizing the real Zora is underground, drags Alto to the surface and relies on Chris for the next move. Alto reflects on his human past, his time with Lucia, and the losses resurfacing in this fight. He praises Steria and her troops for their efforts. In a flashback, Crimson had informed Steria about Alto's human past and leadership skills. Crimson had advised Steria not to give up, as their resolve would drive Alto insane. Alto offers Steria a chance to join the Blood of the Wing, but she responds with a powerful forging arts attack, forcing him against a tree. Soldiers retrieve Steria, and Chris removes the weapon. Steria communicates with her troops, asking them to send energy to the Silverine weapon. Chris throws the weapon at Territor, who fires his cannon, resulting in a massive explosion. Ragna seizes the opportunity, grabbing the weapon Chris had thrown. In the midst of the chaos, Shin awakens inside a water-like bubble, confused, and observes Ragna from within as Ragna grabs Chris's blade and fires his hunting flash attack at Territor. Alto, spectating from afar, mourns as Territor finally succumbs to the attack. However, before dying, Titor tells Alto that he blew himself up to avoid dying from Ragna's attack. Despite having some remaining energy, Titor reflects on his past with Alto and Princess Lausa, asking for forgiveness and requesting Alto to use his life force to ensure the death of Steria and others. Alto makes his escape as Territor explodes, and Ragna, with the aid of slime, tries to hold back the blast. Despite their efforts, the explosion proves overwhelming, prompting Steria to lend more power to Ragna to prevent further casualties. Together, they neutralize the attack. Afterward, Steria acknowledges Ragna's strength and expresses concerns about his future self, thanking him for his help and urging him to abandon Crimson and join her army. Before Ragna can reply, he faints. Meanwhile, Fu's comrades inform him that the magic teleportation circle is ready. Ragna awakens, and before the humans can celebrate their victory, Kamui arrives, murdering Steria and her forces. Kamui then turns his attention to Ragna, and they clash. During the battle, Ragna recalls a warning from Crimson about Kamui's powerful abilities and past crimes. Despite Crimson's warnings, Ragna is humbled by Kamui's attack, feeling hopeless until he dreams of Steria, who urges him to wake up. Ragna finds himself in an alternate dimension where Steria explains they were teleported by the magic circle. She insists on creating a strong sword called the Silver Comet, despite the risk to her life, to assure Ragna of its utility. Ragna refuses to leave her side, but the ground erupts, causing him to fall. After spending 2 days unconscious, he wakes up bandaged and senses Steria's aura within himself. He exits the camp, meets with his allies, and realizes they are on the Solaran church grounds. Ragna is led to a meeting with the Dragon Scourge leader, Karula, who forgives him for past conflicts and reveals her time reversal abilities. Ragna requests her to save Steria using these powers, but she declines, deeming it a waste of energy. Enraged, Ragna threatens violence, but they instead discuss their plans. Karula attempts to blackmail Ragna into joining the Dragon Scourge by threatening to send Steria's army back to Earth. Ragna refuses and vows to kill Ultimata instead. Ragna then meets with Crimson, who shows him a key to another dimension and explains their next move. Despite Ragna's insistence on acting immediately, Crimson insists on waiting 3 years until their resources are fully restored. Unwilling to wait, Ragna attempts to leave but succumbs to a toxin Crimson had given him, intended to prevent rebellion. Despite this, Ragna stands back up, determined to save Steria, and apologizes for his betrayal. Crimson and Chimera try to stop him but are swiftly overpowered. Ragna reveals to his allies that Steria is alive and heads to confront Kamui, who has poisoned Steria to prevent her from leaving the capital or Ragna from approaching. Meanwhile, Ultimata prays for divine guidance, and the Elder Borgias, now transformed, discusses their plans to handle Steria's forces. Nebula's project to manipulate time is praised, and they plan to use this against their enemies. Steria promises to forge a sword to counter Kamui's claws, while Fu continues working on the teleportation circle. Karula agrees to assist but demands a sample of Ragna's blood. Crimson and Snake discuss their strategy, intending to use Ragna and Steria's forces as a distraction to kill Ultimata. Ake and the group prepare for their plan, set to initiate in 2 days. Ragna spars with Graham, who acknowledges his growth but finds it difficult to take pride in his newfound strength. Graham admits to imitating one of Ragna's tactics, marking mutual respect and camaraderie as they prepare for the next phase of their battle. Even though his feat weren't on par with Ragna's, Graham is still proud of what he achieved. He asks Ragna to continue leading them down a brighter path by showing them his strength. After a while, as everyone prepared to teleport back to Earth, Fu initiated the magic circle while the Dragon Scourge sacrificed themselves to initiate a time control magic countermeasure-like spell. Apparently, this will enable Ike and the others to act within stop time. However, they only have 3 minutes to do so, according to Karula. As the Dragon Scourge members die one after another, Karula gives them a heartfelt speech before Ragna and the Steria forces are teleported back to the capital. Awaiting the humans to return, Ult Tora and the Elder confront Steria's forces, whereas Ragna decides to fight Kamui. Meanwhile, Nebula senses Crimson and his entourage have arrived on the scene. Upon arriving at the battlefield, Crimson realizes that Ultimate TA hasn't stopped time and concludes that it's possible she can't stop time. Suddenly, the Elder transforms into his dragon form as he tells his enemies that he will crush them. Back to Ragna, Ragna confronts Kamui, and upon seeing Steria, he rushes over to her side. Meanwhile, Alto tells Steria's army that Steria will perish soon, regardless if they defeat him. Back to Ragna, Ragna is horrified to see Steria poisoned throughout her whole body. Although Steria successfully forged the Silver Comet sword for Ragna, she tells him it won't assist him in combating Wall's Claw since she was a failure till the end. For the sake of Steria, Ragna promises Steria that he'll defeat Kamui with her sword. After giving Steria and Ragna the time to chit-chat, Walu finally returns to the battlefield, and they immediately clash swords. After battling for a while, Ragna is able to pierce Walti Kemu's humanic body, and he entices Wal to transform into his dragon form. While Chima and another ally confronted the Elder, Ragna and Walti's battle intervenes with theirs. Noticing Chimera and her ally are in danger, Ragna lends the two a hand by freezing the Elder's face. Following Ragna's aid, Wal at Kamui attacks Ragna, pushing him away from the battlefield. Although the Elder is immobilized by Ragna's Silverine, his dragon form sprouts new heads. Meanwhile, Steria's forces overwhelm Osora with their combined might. Despite having the upper hand, Steria's Foss's morale dwindles briefly. Seeing this opportunity, Alto ponders if he'll ever achieve Terador's level of strength. With the thought of his deceased comrade flowing through his mind, Alto transforms into a more muscular and capable dragon. Meanwhile, Ragna and Walti Kemu take their duel to outer space, whereas Nazarena and Steria observe the battle from afar. Seeing Nazarena by her side, Steria tells Nazarena to leave her be and assist the others with the dragons. Hearing Steria, Nazarena recalls her first encounter with Steria when she was younger. Although Nazarena acknowledged Steria's disabilities, she mentions that Steria is still around because others see value in her peculiar powers. After the flashback, Nazarena departs and plans to assist the others with the dragons. On the other hand, Nebule senses Crimson nearby and suspects that Crimson was after Ultimate TA. Although initially Nebule isn't worried, Crimson starts to breach through Nebule's barrier, causing him to panic. Before Nebule is able to counter it, Slime appears next to him and absorbs him, killing him in the process. Meanwhile, Crimson infiltrates and appears behind Ultimate. Using his last breath, Nebule calls out to Ultimate, alerting her of Crimson's lurk. Panicked, Crimson uses his firearm and his device to prevent Ultimate TAA's time manipulation powers from interfering with his ploy. To counter Crimson, Ultimate TAA transforms into a dragon. Seeing Ultimate TAA transform, Crimson has a flashback of the time when he held a civil discussion with other versions of himself regarding Ragna and what he had said to him. Afterwards, Crimson grabs his heart and places it inside his body, causing him to transform. In his new state, Crimson uses his various weapons to fight Ultimate TAA head-on. Before Crimson can deal a decisive blow to her, Ultimate TAA unleashes a powerful attack, engulfing the room in a large explosion.